now 7 o'clock, so we'll make a start. Welcome everyone to the Corporate and Community Services Committee. I'll start with an acknowledgement of country. So we'd like to acknowledge that the land that we meet on today is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge that the Kaurna people are the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. On to attendance. We have an apology from Councillor White. Other than that, everyone else is here. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence? No? Thank you. And no one is currently on leave of absence. And no non-attendance. So we'll move now to item 3, a public open forum. So we have Jared Sharp from the Gawler Scout Group, who's going to be talking tonight to 7.4, the community grants. So welcome, Jared. And if you just like to press the button on the microphone there.
Audio. Thank you. My name is Jared Sharp and I'm a volunteer scout leader at the Gawler Scout Group. And I'd like just to talk briefly about the support that we have for the community grant and the panel selection for the grant submission we put forward for tents. I did think we'd have other members of the community here speaking about their grants, so I thought it might be a little bit competitive, but I'll keep going. Last weekend, I supported a group of scouts on a 40k bushwalk along the Willunga Basin Trail south of Adelaide. 2 weekends ago, it was a 90-kilometre bike ride along the Mawson Trail from Clare through Burra and up and over Goyder's Line to Dares Hill Summit. These adventures are indirectly supervised, meaning that I'm there in the vicinity, responsible for their safety and welfare and monitoring their progress. The adventures have been planned by the Scouts, which they participate in with their peers. It's youth leading, adults supported. They're learning real leadership skills as they independently make decisions in relation to their journey, their navigation. They use their teamwork to support each other to rise to challenges thrown up by the terrain and weather elements, fatigue, and nighttime jump scares of 100 kangaroos in Aldinga Scrub Conservation Park. Over Easter, we had 11 of our scouts competing in a Scouts SA statewide competitive hiking and navigation event. This was Easter Venture, and it was held through the Kersbrook Native Forest Reserve, Parawira and the Barossa Goldfields. Our senior scouts came back in first place, a haul of 4 trophies with significant daylight between them and the next runners-up. This involved hiking 60 to 70 kilometres with 15-kilo backpacks, 10-hour days of effort across 4 days, finding their waypoints through the bushland, completing side quests, while all dressed up as lizard people, government officials, wearing suits to support the conspiracy theory theme of the event. I sometimes think we're a bit tucked away out there in Java Street, Williston, and perhaps we don't share our successes enough with the community. This grant would mean a lot to us. It's especially needed as we've come through the disruptions of COVID to our fundraising, and a 30% global reduction in volunteer efforts we've heard about definitely impacts us at the grassroots level. We've got a strong youth program of over 90 Gawler youth, aged as young as 5 years old, orientated towards community values, sustainable environments, outdoor leadership and plenty of fun. All of these scouts do make me immensely proud, and they make their community proud. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jared. Does anyone have any questions for Jared? No, thank you, Jared, thank you for coming and sharing that with us. Right, moving on now to declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Any items? Nope, there's none. All right. Confirmation of minutes. Can I please have someone move to confirm the minutes last meeting? Karen, you're happy to move? Sorry, Mayor is happy to move that. Can I have a seconded? Councillor Hughes, all those in favour? That's unanimously carried. Thank you. Brilliant. Now on to, is there any business arising from the minutes? No. Item 7. So That's 7.1 is the reconciliation update. So we have Mr. Dale Giles, who's the chairperson of the Gawler Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group here with us tonight, who can answer any questions. But I believe the Mayor wanted to move a slight change to that motion. Would you like to speak to that, Mayor?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Dale Giles, for coming along. I'd like to move that we receive the reconciliation update report, and also point 2 that I think it might be recommendation to council that council provide an effective information campaign as detailed in this report, which is on page 13. So I can put page 13, provide an effective information campaign as detailed in the above mentioned report, page 13.
There is.
I think that's correct, isn't it? Page 13. Yeah. So if I
yes, you
am I able
speak
to
to that?
speak?
Yes.
Thank you very much. I think it's really important that council provides balanced information to a broad section of our community on this matter. It's going to be quite an important matter coming up towards the end of the year. I think it's disappointing that on page 12 that the LGA does not have a policy position. They are supposed to be the voice of local government, yet they do not seem to have a voice. I think that's really quite disappointing. The motion that was moved at the ordinary general meeting was, there were many people speaking against the motion because they felt it was offensive to Aboriginal people. I think they were speaking from the heart. There were many people that spoke for the motion. So it was quite split. But I think the really disappointing point was point 2, that the policy position does not have any policy position. So I think this is really important for a council to do, to provide balanced information, which is what local government does all the time. And I think that it really is a bit of a no-brainer. I think it should be in the recommendation. It should be, I think I'll ask for advice, Chair, that is it a recommendation to council, or can we do that effectively without a recommendation to council? Just a question on that.
CEO, what's the delegated authority that this committee has? Does that fall within that scope?
Through the chair, given the suggested additional part of the recommendation, effective information campaign, which, depending on what one interprets that, it could be, obviously we'll be applying resources to it. So I would suggest that it would be that the committee recommend to council 1 and 2.
And just to double check, you're satisfied with that wording that's now on the screen, Mayor? Just wait for that to be adjusted. Do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Hennessy, you would like to second? Would you like to speak to it? No. Discussion, would anyone like to speak to the motion? Yes, question, Mayor?
This question is to Mr. Dale Giles. Probably just a bit of a wrap up of the discussion had at the working group on this matter, on the referendum, if that's possible, Dale. Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Hi, everyone. Firstly, I just want to recognise the work that Linda does in the background for all of this stuff. It's huge amounts of work that she does, and I try to sort of let people know that, because she just does it away quietly in the background. So she does a bucket load of work in this space. Just a bit of a wrap up. So we've had some really good conversations around whether council takes a position or not takes a position, or does the effective campaign and sort of goes neutrally down the middle. I am a big advocate of going down the middle with a really good, just effective information session through social media, so people can get both sides of the argument, the fors and against. I've given a few resources to Linda to use as part of that shows, you know, Aboriginal people talking against the voice and why they're talking against the voice, and also for, because I think from the conversations that we've been having in that particular space here, is that, you know, as with everybody, not every Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander person is going to be on board with the voice. There's different camps and those sort of things, but it's a matter of making sure our community actually understands both sides, so they can make an informed decision come the end of the year. And I think that is the best way we can go forward, for people to be able to get on board with this space. It's a tricky space as it is to bring people along on that ride when you're talking about culture and history and that sort of stuff, and trying to have reconciliation and keep moving forward. So if we have too much of one side, you're going to lose the other. You had too much on the other side, you're going to lose the other side. So we've had lots of conversations around what that can look like. So the campaign on the social media platforms is one of those. And we've also talked about having a bit of a community forum as well, with a very balanced view for people to come and ask questions to people that are Dale Aegis, the Commissioner, Thomas Mayer. We've talked about it, balancing it out with some aunties in there as well as the male figures, but also then getting some community members that aren't for the voice, so that we can get that opinion across from both sides, but also allowing community to ask questions, because there's a lot of misinformation around what the voice looks like as well. So it's about making sure that community is really clear on what that is, and how far the voice goes and those sort of things in the background. And there'll be also a bit of confusion around our voice here in South Australia, and the Commonwealth voice as well. So need to be some clarity around that through there too, is what we've talked about. Yeah. Hope that helps.
Yes, thank you, Dale. Does anyone have any questions? Councillor Hughes?
It's not really a question, but probably.
If you'd like to answer the
Yeah,
discussion.
it's more to thank Dale for all these years he's been on the committee and taking on the chair. It's been a huge slog. How many years, Dale, have you been involved in Gawler's Reconciliation Committee?
Please, give or take. Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, we've been slogging away for a long time.
Thank you. Helen? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hennessy. Apologies.
It's okay. Despite having seconded this, I'm going to reinforce that I'm going to support the motion. I think as Dale has explained to us, the idea of presenting a balanced and informative information session and media campaign is what our community deserves and expects. So I think we have a proud history here in Gawler of making informed decisions, and I think this shows leadership on behalf of the council, but make sure that we present all of the information fairly and clearly. So I seek your support in this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Would anyone else like to answer this? Councillor Hughes?
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I support the motion too, and yeah, probably for all the councillors, there's nothing really outstanding on page 13. As Dale said, it is really balanced, and it is probably just general information. So I think that's as Councillor Hennessy and the Mayor said, it's right and proper. And yeah, unfortunately, we will be bombarded from all sorts of angles. So I think it's quite good to support. And going back to the report itself, I was actually involved with the Integrated Heritage Services inspection of the watercourse with the CEO and elders from the Kaurna people, and our watercourse area, the North and South Parra rivers and the junction are really important Aboriginal heritage places, and as highlighted in the report, they are so sensitive that the reports aren't going to be released, and it was really good to I think that we had Uncle Jeffrey there, and yeah, it was quite a good discussion on site. But those scar trees and other trees, and it was actually mentioned by everyone else, just how important it is for the health of those trees to have that native understory and have native species. There is a lot of couch grass and woody weeds and things like that, but the health of those scar trees and everything else is really important. And sometimes, yeah, some of the fertilizers and everything else that goes on with our reserves can affect the health of the trees. So it's not really mentioned in this report, but that biodiversity and protection of those species will also help with that cultural heritage protection, which I think is really important to raise as an issue, as well as the fact that that whole watercourse system is really, really important to the Kaurna people, and there are a lot of artifacts and a lot of things along there, and it is really important. And yeah, once there's, I think it was acknowledged that Gawler is doing its fair share, but the more we can do, the better. And it's really important that Gawler keeps working in this space. And as part of the RAP plan, while we've got Dale here, it is also about getting employment for Aboriginal people in our town and in our council and things like that as well. So that whole side of the RAP is probably, I think, one of the most important parts of it, which just I think sometimes doesn't get mentioned too. But that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Is there any other discussion, Councillor Samble?
Mr. Chairman, I noticed what Mick Harron has put in there, the council provide an effective information campaign as detailed. Well, that would certainly be done and put together by our staff. And is there a budget for that? Because as the moment, all we're talking about is where do we save, what do we do that's constructive and so forth. I'm just wondering, in that, is it really left open, because you don't run an effective information campaign unless it costs you?
Would detailed in the report that would be done via social media and by hosting a forum, also with a fact sheet. But CEO, can you maybe shed some light or point to some, or refer to someone who can shed some light on where that funding is coming from? I imagine it's only a small amount. Chair. Thank you.
Through the chair, I imagine the social media campaign won't take anything other than staff resources. For the forum, if there were any fees for speakers, we would take them first from the reconciliation budget. We do have an annual recurrent budget for that. It covers NAIDOC Week, Reconciliation Week and other activities, but we would look at it and see what kind of speakers we could get and what fees they would charge and go from there.
Does that answer your question, Councillor Samble? Yep. Thank you, Chair. Are there any other questions or discussion before we move to a vote? Thank you, Dale. Thanks for providing that update. In that case, I'll put the motion. No. Oh, sorry. I'll wrap up. Yes, apologies. I'll wrap up the debate. So, Mayor, would you like to wrap up the debate?
Thank you. Thank you to Dale Giles, and thank you also to his acknowledgement of Linda Weiss, who's an outstanding staff member and writes exceptional reports. There's a lot in this report. Many council members have obviously read the report, but also acknowledged the important work that's been done in this space. I love reading Linda's reports. I think they're just so comprehensive and full of interesting information. I think we're very lucky to have Linda and many staff, all staff, in fact, of Gawler Council. Yeah, so I'm really excited about what's happening in this space. I thank our staff for explaining around the resource requirement. It sounds like that's in hand, and that's really good to hear. And I think that we can do a really good job in regard to the Voice referendum later this year. And I think also many different activities around reconciliation, which is included in our action plan. I don't think I've got an actual hard copy. I don't believe I've received one, so I think I need to get one. But yeah, it is fabulous. So I'll leave it at that, Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Against? That is carried. Right, a division has been called. All those in favour, please stand. So all those in favour are, pardon? Oh, yes, but yes, I guess I will, I forgot I have a deliberative vote. So I'll stand and try and catch the microphone. No, thank you, Councillor Hughes. All those in favour are Councillor Lorna, Councillor Koch, Councillor Davies, Councillor Hughes, Deputy Mayor Shanks, Councillor Hennessy, Mayor Redmond and Councillor Solomon. All those against are Councillor Samble. You can resume your seats now. Thank you. All right. Now moving on to item 7.2, which is the homelessness in Gawler update. So we have Major Darren Dwyer from the Salvation Army Riverside Centre here with us tonight to answer any questions. But would someone like to move the officer's recommendation? I think I saw Councillor Hennessy first. Would you like to speak to the report, Councillor?
Again, I'd just like to thank staff for another excellent and informative report. I think it's given us plenty of detail. It has very clearly identified a wide range of actions that have happened and very clearly identified that the council's role in this is advocating and collaborating. But we are working very closely with a range of organisations. It also steps out some of the definitions behind homelessness. So I'm again thank the staff member for providing this, and I seek your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Mayor Redmond. Would you like to speak to the report?
Yes, I echo Councillor Hennessy's words. I think this is an excellent report. I think there's a lot that council is doing, particularly around leadership and also advocacy, but also getting in with our community safety officers, but also I know we have representatives on the Red Room project, etc. So there's lots of collaboration across the town through multiple agencies, and I think it's working well. I spoke with Lauren Leverington, who's the superintendent of the Barossa LSA recently, and she said that they're really making inroads into homelessness in Gawler. They're are able to help people, which is what it's all about. We are here to help people, and they are effectively helping many people in this space to find housing. And we're also helping people who continue to be homeless and sleeping rough. I'd like to acknowledge Salvation Army Major Darren Dwyer, because of the wonderful work that the Salvation Army, but many agencies in Gawler do. The police, of course, SAPOL, SAS, the housing authorities, and also our local council and our local council staff who are heavily involved in collaboration. So I think this is an excellent update, and I commend it to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Redmond. Discussion, would anyone like to speak to the motion? No. In that case, Councillor Hennessy, would you like to close? Yep, waving your rights, that's fine. All right, in that case, I'll put it to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's unanimously carried. Thank you. Moving on now. Yes, moving on now to 7.3. So we are joined by Dr. Alice Clark from Shelter SA. Welcome, Dr. Clark. I believe you're going to give a short presentation to us or speak to us briefly. We'll just wait for the, I think are you able to unmute yourself, Dr. Clark?
Yes.
Yes, everyone can hear all right? Yep, fantastic. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Hello to Mayor Karen and Henry and all of those present tonight. I was just asked to give you a very brief summary of what Shelter SA does and who we are, and happy to answer any questions, of course. So we're very pleased that the town of Gawler is a member of Shelter SA. We're an independent, not-for-profit registered charity housing peak in South Australia. Mainly our members consist of the major charities that you would have heard of, including the Salvation Army, but organisations that work in the social housing space and the homelessness space, and actually provide a range of human services and assistance to the most vulnerable citizens in this state. So we don't do individual advocacy, and we don't have any housing, unfortunately. So we do systems advocacy. We work on the housing system and look at policy, legislation, service delivery, and the provision of housing across a range of places across the state. An example, and I guess aligned with that sort of systems work is the advocacy that we do. And that involves a lot of writing submissions, policy analysis, speaking with ministers, politicians, and other senior public servants and decision makers, and having a presence where we can influence some of those decisions. Some of the current things we've been doing, you may have heard there's a review of the Residential Tenancies Act happening at the moment. So we're very heavily involved with that with Minister Andrea Michaels. There's an Economic and Finance Committee, a parliamentary inquiry into housing availability at the moment. So we're assisting that committee with their inquiry. And Minister Nat Cook invited me to chair her task force looking at older women and housing security. So that's an ongoing role for a couple of more months, where we are developing an action plan to improve the way we house older women. And that's progressing. And while we care about other cohorts of people, if older women are the Trojan horse for some of these changes that will actually help everybody, then I'm pleased to be involved in that. So also just to offer our assistance, if you're ever wanting information about housing and housing affordability, to please reach out to us.
Thank you, Dr. Clark. Does anyone have any questions for Dr. Clark? No? Yes, Mayor Redmond.
Thank you, Dr. Alice Clark, and welcome. It's Karen Redmond here. How did the discussion with Nicola Forrest go?
Yes, thanks, Karen. So Women for Progress is an organisation, a group of quite high profile women who meet to discuss various public policy issues, led by Nicola Forrest, who some of you may have heard of. She's also director of the Minderoo Foundation. Nicola contacted me to do a presentation for the Women for Progress group and also to speak on a public panel about how philanthropy could contribute to the provision of housing for women again. So the presentation I gave to the Women for Progress was something that you would be probably quite familiar with, Karen, in that it was around how can we build housing in a way that is really affordable for people living on low incomes, looking at modular dwellings and different ways of using land and our planning system. And it was very well received. And so making that connection with Nicola was valuable. And I've let her know that we want to develop quite a high level pitch to her to build housing in South Australia, to finance and build housing in South Australia. And that's something I've flagged that may be of interest to the town of Gawler in light of the work we've done together previously, that having a site for such a pitch to be located would be important. And Nicola has let me know that she would welcome receiving such a high level proposal. And there are no guarantees that the Minderoo Foundation would back such a thing, but I think it's really would be worthwhile to spend some time working on that together and putting it in front of her and some of the other women that are around that table.
Thank you. Are there any further questions for Dr. Clark? No, thank you. Our discussion. Would someone like to move? Sorry, move that motion? Mayor Redman, you're happy to move that? Or would you like to speak?
Just briefly, thank you, Alice, once again for that quite detailed explanation. I think it's a really exciting proposal. I think there's lots of really exciting things happening in this space. And I think advocacy can produce outcomes sometimes. So I think that you've got to be in it to win it. So I'm certainly keen to work up a pitch for Nicola Forrest and her colleagues. I think that would be quite exciting for women, and it, as you said, Alice, it translates to a ripple effect for everybody. So I think that would be really quite an interesting proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I please have a seconder? Councillor Hughes, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, yeah, agreeing with the Mayor, I think advocacy in this area, we do get a lot of comments as councillors, what can we do in this area? And I think that's our role. It is difficult, and there's a lot of players and it's complex, but I think if we can push things as much as we can in this angle, I think that's important. So yeah, happy to second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Councillor Lorna.
Thank you, Councillor Solomon. Just got a query in regards to staff. Page 26, it said about the consequence of the council's decision at the 3rd of May 2023 special council meeting due to move the budget bid for the senior social and community planner below the line within the draft annual budget. Further investigation regarding this project and its suitability for the town of Gawler are not able to progress in the short to medium term, but it remains identified opportunity. I'd like to see that revisited. I think it's very important that we actually take part in this, and if we can re-establish some staff to identify it, please.
So that was on page, sorry.
Sorry,
So that's
page 26.
26 and that was the-
One to the third paragraph from the bottom. Halfway through that paragraph.
CEO, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, through the chair. Well, I'll just reiterate that we have been participating in this space within existing resources. We have been facilitating, a number of initiatives as has been reported. But it is stating the fact in terms of the, stretched nature of those resources, but we'll continue to do what we can with what we've got.
Are you satisfied with that, councillor, or would you like to seek to make an amendment to that? Would like to make an amendment? Okay. Is that, I'll just check with the CEO, is that, I mean, it's not an amendment to the motion, but it would, it would be a separate motion, wouldn't it, given that it would be, yeah. So I can check, unless that's amenable to the mover, then. No, yep, that's fine. Yep. No, if it's not amenable to the mover, then I'll leave that for now. Thanks. All right, but yep, thank you for that clarification. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? No, thank you. In that case, would you like to wrap up, Mayor? Fine to put that. All right, I'll put that now. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Dr. Clark, for joining us for that brief presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, and good night, everyone.
See you later. All right. Now on to item 7.4. So the 2022-23 community grants. Can I please have someone move the officer's recommendation? There was a few there. I think I saw Councillor Davies first. Would you like to speak, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, I think this is a good bunch of projects, and thanks to the Scouts coming and speaking. I think this is one that I think this has been delayed a little while. This is the one, wasn't it, where we went into caretaker mode, and so we delayed the whole process. So I think the next round of grants is coming up again later this year. But yeah, if you we do this every year, and often we try to pick ones that weren't in the previous year's winners, but then every second year they come around and continue looking at it. So yeah, it's I definitely encourage any community groups that are listening that to apply to this, because it's up to $1,000, comes around every year. It's a good opportunity.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Please have a second to Councillor Sample. Very fast there. Would you like to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I think it's great to be able to support these various groups and that, because for what they do in the community for so many, the old story, so few do so much for so many. And every now and then to just give a little bit of a boost, and as I agree with Councillor Davies, it's so good to hear people from these groups like the First Gawler Scout Group come on and just explain what's going on, because one of the things as elected members, we don't really get to know. We know these people and we know they're fantastic in the clubs and the groups, but I would certainly urge that if people are interested in a grant to support them, that at least they come along to a meeting and tell us a bit about it, like as the Scouts have tonight. That was excellent.
Right, thank you, Councillor Sample. Discussion. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Shanks and then come to Councillor Lorna.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Yeah, the community grants program is one that I've been very excited to watch roll out every single year. I learn a few things here and there, but it's one of those fundamentals I believe we offer, although we don't have to technically. I think it is expected for us to be able to support these community groups. I mean, $1,000 isn't much. So it's spread across the magnitude of groups we've got here is a good thing. It is sharing that love. I do know we had $15,000 budget and we've only expended $9,000. So yeah, hopefully we can get to that level where we're expending that budget and really injecting it into these community groups, because I know as soon as that $1,000 will enter their bank account, they'll stretch every single dollar of it. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to, you know, not only hearing stories like we did tonight from Jared as well, which I think I've replied to an email to you. Yeah, that's with you. Good. Yeah, looking forward to seeing this roll out later in the year as Councillor Davies is pushed out, and if there is appetite to start upping some of these figures, we seem to up other rates and charges. Let's have a look at what our community grants are looking like.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Warner.
Thank you for that. I also very much supporting the local communities. I do have a question in regards to, I would say to number 8, the Williston Netball Club. In part of this, it says it is expected that applicants will meet at least 50% of the project or activity costs. This can be by way of in-kind support. On the report, I see that applicant contributions $200 for $1,000. Can I just get confirmation how this works? I'm not against it. I just like to make everyone on the same playing field and all the rules are followed. Thanks. Someone can answer.
Yeah. Is that Chia? Is that your particular area? You happy to answer that?
Yes, sorry, I'll just find the page.
Yeah. Those which page was it, Councillor Lorna?
Page 33.
Page. That's 33 in the, but in the attachments it's 38. So those 2 pages there, 33 in the agenda and 38 in the attachments.
I don't.
So if would you like to turn your microphone on, Councillor Lorna, you can, yeah. Oh, sorry. Yep.
Sorry, I do apologise. I retract that statement. So I was looking at the wrong netball club. My apologies for that. Sorry, Williston Netball Club.
That's fine now. All good. All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you, Councillor Lorna. All good. And then yes, Councillor Koch.
Yes, obviously, I'm quite happy to support all the projects that have been nominated. Just wanted to say one thing. When we go through the actual applications, there seems to be a bit of a discrepancy about the 50% contributions. As Councillor Lorna was saying, we need that 50%, and sometimes the people that put the applications in don't quite get that right. So I think there just needs to be a little bit more work on explaining that 50% contribution to the total project, because sometimes it gets a bit mashed up a little bit and the figures don't quite work out. So you've got some worthy projects, but unfortunately the funding, the contribution isn't quite right. So just something for community groups to think about in the future. Thank you.
So that's feedback there. Thank you, Councillor Koch. Would anyone else like to speak? To the item? No, in that case, is the mover happy to put that? Councillor Davies, yep. Was there? Yep. No worries. All right, I'll put that now. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Thank you. That's carried unanimously. Brilliant. On now to 7.5, which is the 2023 Mule project update. Councillor Hughes, you'd like to move that way?
Yeah, if I can. This is more an update report and thank Linda and others probably involved. And yeah, basically to say this work is ongoing. and we wait to see, you know, which properties we get permission for and another report. I think this, it may have been a bit sort of short timing to put on the last motion that we wanted to report back by May. We got a report back by May, and thank the staff for that, but we haven't got, you know, any approvals yet from landowners, so or enough really to make a choice. Thank you, and yeah, hopefully we do get to choose from some good properties for in the future, and yeah, agree with the Civic Centre mural as well. So yeah, happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. So yes, you're correct there that there is a lot of work still underway, but that I've been told that this will allow us to get that civic centre piece underway pretty much as soon as this is done. We'll make a start on that. Can I please have a seconder for the motion? I think I saw Deputy Mayor Shanks first.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, it's no secret that, you know, I'm all about beautifying the town using murals to do so. I think we're doing some good work in this space, and there is some good community connection to some of the pieces that are starting to roll out. Look, I do acknowledge that we put Linda under the pump, and I personally thank her for getting this report back to us. It was a chicken and egg sort of situation last time on if we choose a wall, but we don't have the support of the owner or the building, the tenant, then we're back to square one. So I think as much as it was I guess a pain for Linda, I think this way forward is a good way to go. Even just talking and looking through the table, we're already starting to understand where there is no interest, so we can cross off some of those items, but then we're also seeing some, you know, building owners that haven't come back yet and all this, so it will be a bit of a process, but again, I'm all for colouring some boring walls, and I think that's what we're going to be able to achieve here in the very own Civic Centre as an entrance statement as we come into this already beautiful building. So happy to support this report the way that it sits, and look forward to the work that's going to come from it.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Hennessy.
Yes, thank you. Just 2 points. In the design, which I think is going to be stunning, I'm very much aware that the shaded square is actually a TV screen, which was partially funded by the history team, so we can display items. Just want to make sure that it's probably the way it's been expressed, but make sure that that's not in no way hazard the showing of the clear slides that go through.
Yeah,
just need to explaining myself clearly.
I've been informed that won't be affected at all.
Fabulous.
It's designed around that. Yep.
And I concur with the information that we've got some interest from some of the agents, but again, given, and especially given the shortfall that might occur on the funding, and that these are privately owned properties, I think it would be worthwhile to seek if the owners would contribute towards something which is going to benefit the businesses. So maybe that can be considered.
So taken as feedback. Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Councillor Kosh.
Thank you, Chair. My question is on the same vein. Could I just get an explanation around the partnership opportunities? Because are we expecting council to pay for the murals and maintain them and then keep on renewing them, or is it some other relationship?
Some clarification on that, Chair. You're happy to answer that?
Sure, we would obviously have to work out the details, but I would imagine any mural would have an end of life attached to it, after which we would not continue to repaint or refit or fix or maintain. We'd build that into the agreement with whichever business owner's wall it was on, but we'd work all that out. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yep. Thank you, Chair. Yep. Councillor Kosh.
Just to clarify, are we actually saying that council is going to fund them and maintain them? Is that what I've heard just then, or not?
Okay, get this eventually.
So it would obviously we would need to work out the details, sorry, through the chair, but my mind would be we would paint it. It would be up there for a set period of time. And then after that, if it needed to be, if it faded, it would be on the business owner to replace after basically a term of agreement, because we wouldn't want to be locked into that forever.
Right.
Because a new business owner may purchase the building and not want it there anymore, may wish to paint over it. So they're all details we would have to work out if it did proceed on a private wall.
And that, okay, so that would be worked out subsequently to us passing that. Thank you. Is that's satisfied with that, Councillor Koch? Councillor Davies?
Yeah, just a question. Thorpe Lane mentioned that they declined due to impending development of the space. I'm just wondering if there's, I don't know, any details, and I've been curious about what's going on up there.
CEO?
Yes, there has been conversations with the owners of that shopping strip. Whether or not an actual development application is being lodged, I'll need to take that on notice. But we understand that there is, if not lodged soon, not lodged already soon in terms of the redevelopment of that site and an upgrade and that connection through to the Phoenix Shopping Centre. So we're hoping that's all imminent in terms of being processed.
Thank you, CEO. Is there any further discussion on the item? No. In that case, Councillor Hughes, are you would you like to wrap up debate? Or no? No worries. In that case, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That's unanimously carried. Item 7.6, Business Innovation Hub Collaborative Operating Model Review. Can I please have a mover for that recommendation? Is there a mover of recommendation? Deputy Mayor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I'll move it just to open up a discussion, but I'll be speaking against it. Yeah. I think it's important that we do have these discussions. Members that were on the previous term will remember the motion I moved to provide some separate reporting on the business hub undertaking and the management model. I spoke against the model being managed internally by council. This wasn't with malice intent, it just was, I think there's better options available that we haven't unpacked. Unfortunately, when this report came through, I was a little bit disappointed because I was under the impression that although I didn't support the model last time, it was a let's try this out and see how we go while we try to figure out some other options. Now the report is making a point in saying that the Economic Development Officer position below the line is meaning that we can't deliver on the things that were linked to that business innovation hub to the chamber, I believe, when the scoping of this very building happened. So to then be in 2023 to say, oh, well, in actual fact, we can't deliver on these things because the Economic Development Officer is now below the line is a little bit disappointing. So I'd like to see some better thinking in this space on what we can do in the management of the space to start delivering the items that we did promise the community that we were going to back before this place was developed. I still look at us as a commercial landlord with the way we're going about this right now, which attracts a whole bunch of different negativity to council that we don't need right now. So yeah, like I said, I'm moving the motion but speaking against it purely just to open up that conversation because yeah, this is a long time in the making and we can't seem to quite get it right.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Can I please have a seconder? Keep in mind you can second just to open up. Councillor Koch.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Look, I'll be seconding this and supporting this. The report lays out that we just haven't got the capacity currently to deliver on what we had originally thought we'd do. And solely that gets down to the fact that the Economic Development Officer has been removed below the line. We have tried private enterprise to deliver some of the services, but we found that the funding didn't work because essentially what was being offered that was going to be a fee for service, the businesses in Gawler just didn't want to pay those fees. Those sort of courses worked in the city and people paid for them, but in Gawler it didn't seem to work. So therefore the models basically fell over. This is what we've got at the moment. And I think it's working okay. I would like to see some movement of some of the businesses into the private sector. Unfortunately, that seems to be halted at the moment. But so anyway, I will be supporting this because I think this is the only way forward at the moment, unless we move the Economic Development Officer back up above the line. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Koch. Any discussion, Councillor Davies?
Yeah, I had similar concerns to the Deputy Mayor. It's from reading a report, it seems like the part that's working is us being a commercial operator, and the part that's not working is us being a social enterprise, which sort of, you know, we're not fulfilling our KPIs on getting new members or getting rid of old members who've been there a long time. Nobody's attending the training programs that we're holding. So it seems like we're functionally just a co-working space that with nothing else particularly attached to it. And I'm just, you know, we can move the goalpost to say, oh, look, it's a success because we've made a bit of a profit, but it sort of was never the purpose of that facility.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. We'll go to Mayor Redmond and we'll come back.
Thank you. Yes, I'll be supporting this. I think that there is a capacity issue here, and there's been a range of models put forward in regard to the Business Innovation Hub, and I think Councillor Koch nailed it when he said that Gawler businesses don't want to pay for some of the services that were provided. They are provided by RDA Barossa and the Gawler Business Development Group, which on many occasions you can get for free. So there's a tension there that I think doesn't quite work. I think until we have the Economic Development Officer above the line, which may not be for 12 months, I think we need to have a holding pattern with this Business Innovation Hub. It was always going to be a commercial operation within the requirements that local government have to uphold. And the social enterprise element of it was to come up with something, an initiative of social good. However, that has never really been delivered. And I think it reflects the businesses that are in the Business Innovation Hub. Until we have an officer or a role that actually brings all that together and moves businesses out that are doing exceptionally well, and brings other businesses in, I'm not sure that you'll get that social outcome. The social enterprise was in fact the cafe. There was an initiative initially to have something of social good, but I think the businesses that are there, I'm not sure that they would deliver on that given the type of businesses that they are. So I'm happy to have a holding pattern until we can afford the Economic Development Officer, and I think that may well be in the next 12 months. And I think until we have proper resources on the ground, I think that only then, you know, will will it have a chance to really succeed? It does succeed to a certain extent. However, we're not getting the broad breadth of different businesses that come in. The businesses that are there love the space. It's an exceptional space. And I think that we'll leave it in a holding pattern for now until we can afford the economic development officer.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just get so totally confused about this hub, about the Business Development Board, about the RDA, and I agree with Councillor Koch and Councillor Davies. I believe it's working well. I have recommended a lot of people to go there for the business that operate there. Not one of them has been unhappy. I and my wife attend there as well. And we've been very, very happy. The pleasant surroundings, the facilities there are excellent. Where I am hearing it from the business people in this town is this, that the Business Development Board is all paid for by ratepayers of this town. If you own a business in this town, the money goes towards the Business Development Board. We pay a heap of money to the RDA, and this has been discussed many times. You know, it's money, money, money. The people that are so important are the people in the businesses, in the main street. If you've got, you know, a fair bit of time, like Councillor Davies has, walk down the main street and have a chat to the businesses and say, how's it going? You know, how's your publicity, promoting your business and everything going? You'll find that most of the businesses will say it's word of mouth. It's working because businesses tell business. Whether we're promoting solar panels or getting a new building built or whatever, people talk. But those people aren't the small business person is not coming in and being involved in the hub that we're talking about here at this moment. And there's so much discussion about the RDA, I really don't know why we're still talking about it, because I'm sorry, but it doesn't seem to work in my opinion. And I was in business for 35 years in Gawler, and I never got that help. But the Gawler Chamber of Commerce, which was, i.e., like the Business Development Board, we got plenty of input, but we never had the hub there. So the hub has to be, in my opinion, my personal opinion, better promoted for what it is, where it is. I mean, wow, to go in there and the surroundings and everything's there, and the quality of the people that are in there now, we should be supporting them. And then they'll get other people to come and support it also. So, you know, like as far as I'm concerned, we seem to be going around in a circle with this matter, and our businesses in this town are very and very important for the future of this town.
Thank you, Councillor Sample. I'll just input there. There's many very important businesses outside of the main street, though I don't think that's what Councillor Sample meant to say, but and that they are all serviced by the Gawler Business Development Group as well. Any other discussion on that? Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm going to support the officer's recommendation because the hub is working. As the Mayor said, it could be working better, and that could be if we did have a business development officer and other resources. But with the resources we've got, it's working well. Yes, there are some businesses that have been there a very long time, and it's trying to have that mix of businesses. I think talking to there's often one or two vacancies to actually go in there. There is chairs or spaces being taken up by the Regional Development Board and the Business Development Group, and whether those staff are there that often, I don't know, but it's how those arrangements work is really important. And and as Councillor Sample says, Joe, the businesses themselves are providing a service as well. I do think, as being stated, Joe, we do have to be smarter in how it operates. It is quite difficult space. we are getting a lot of information in council reports. I think the actual usage of the building itself, with the meeting rooms and everything else has been improving since COVID. The whole site, especially with the cafe at the moment, it does seem to be really busy, and the business hub seems to be busy as well, which is important. So I think it all is related, and yeah, I think it is difficult for council staff without extra resources to actually take it to the next step. And Joe, there's nothing wrong with us investigating other models, and but I do think with the councils, if we go ahead for another 12 months, I don't think there's going to be any major changes other than maybe a slight improvement. I don't think it's a major negative to not continue.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. Is there any other discussion? Deputy Mayor, would you like to close the debate?
Yeah, thank you, Chair and members. As always, good debate. And look, I get the sentiment of holding pattern with no other opportunity. That's sort of my point. We're in 2023 now, and this facility was opened in 2019. We've had one crack at it with a private operator, and now we all know how that didn't quite eventuate the way that it was expected. And now we're in 2023 saying the only way to make this work is an $120,000 a year asset coming onto our books. That's what this report is talking about. Now, $120,000 per year to solve these problems, maybe. My position is, and this is again my opinion, is I don't think that this is a space we should be operating in, because local government is what we know. Private enterprise is something we struggle in. Even the reports that I've asked for to be separate is to be able to be in a language that we can start monitoring. And I thank staff for preparing them, but some of the questions are missing the point a little bit. One, I'll use an example. What is the profit and loss, i.e. tenancy revenue versus printing, utilities, marketing costs, etc.? The actual cost of the operations for the hub are difficult to determine, as its benefits from several costs being paid from global accountants with council. For example, utilities are not directed, staffing is hard to break down. Now, when we need to explain return on investment to our ratepayers, to our business community, that I believe we're competing against when you go up the road and see a similar model in a business hub, because we're offering nothing more than what these guys are offering at this point in time. I see that as a dangerous place to be playing in, and an understanding there that I'm a little bit skeptical that we even understand what edge we're teetering on here. But then to say, well, $120,000 a year from here on out will solve the problem. Once again, if we're going to spend 120,000, let's unpack that and look at options B, C, D, E, F that are potentially out there. And these are the options that some of us have been calling for a while now, because the economic development manager proposal, that's a new thing. Business hub management, that's 4 years old. So I am not arguing that this isn't a great facility. I'm not arguing that the businesses aren't enjoying the space. Naturally, $15 million development. If I was a business, I'd love to be operating out of here, because the rates are very, very competitive on any other office space in the main street. And a lot of money has been invested to make this place look good. I'm also not arguing the uptake of the usage of the Civic Centre as a whole. That's not the conversation here. What the conversation is about hub management. And realistically, when I'm trying to get the data to figure out how we're managing it, I'm getting the actual cost of operations is a bit hard to give back. But then in finance, I'm getting, but actually we're getting a $9,000 surplus. Come on. We need to unpack this more. This is why I've moved to have these reports separate from the Civic Centre, because it's a different business undertaking. There are other options to look at here. So I look forward to figuring out what those options are moving forward, because another FTE at $120,000 isn't the only solution that's available to us.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll put that now. All those in favour, please raise your hand. All those against, that is carried. Yep, no worries. The division has been called. All those in favour, please stand. All those in favour are Councillor Kosh, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Shanks. Oh, sorry, I will start that again. Councillor Kosh, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Hennessy, Councillor Samble, and Mayor Redmond. So we've moved down one. All those against are Councillor Lorna, Councillor Davies, Councillor Shanks, and Councillor Solomon. You can take a seat now. Yes, thank you. It's carried, and that, yes, and that is carried 5-4. All right, now on to 7.7, which is the Gawler Community Plan 2030 plus review. Mayor, you would like to move that one?
Yeah, yes, thank you, Chair. I always think that when we review our Gawler Community Plan, it's a very exciting time because it brings our community into the conversation, and we merge together and we come out hopefully with a better plan. We have to do this under Section 122 of the Local Government Act, 1999. However, I think we must never lose sight of the word community plan, which we get together with our community and we come up hopefully with a robust plan. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Can I just have a seconder for that? Councillor Hughes. Over a second, would you like to speak?
Yeah, just briefly, it is one of the most important sort of tasks as councillors and all of council staff. In the past, council staff have really been actively involved, which has been fantastic, and councillors, and it is quite strategic, and I think it's actually the community that have actually come along to the sessions in the past have actually then become more engaged with council in other areas as well. So I think it's been one of those ways of actually getting the community more involved in council and council matters as well. I've then noticed from these workshops that we've had in the past with community, those people actually even, I think some of them even put their hand up and run for council and go on council and different things like that. So it is quite a interesting and good community building sort of exercise as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hughes. I'll go to Deputy Mayor Shanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and also thank you, staff, for putting this up. I think it's a timely report, and as our CEO touched on in our training session on Saturday as well, when we're talking about strategic high-level thinking, this is one of those documents that we use for that business undertaking that we're all expected to do. So yes, I understand that this is a teaser, and again, I thank Bryce for the report to say how it's all going to play out. But if I was to make a recommendation to my colleagues, it's really sort of engage with this particular plan because these are the I guess mantras we try to live under and live through. Sometimes I think some of the wording can be a little bit subjective, so working through that will be good to do. But yeah, this is one of those documents that I think a review coming 6 months into the new chamber is a good move. And it's, yeah, once again, credit's due, timed really well with our training that we've received as well. So I look forward to seeing this roll out.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Hennessy.
Thank you, Chair. I agree and concur with some of the comments made earlier. I can see that the elected members have a role, and it's very clear in the methodology and broad timelines. But I'd encourage staff to consider using elected members as another way of communicating this and the process that we go through into the community. Each of us have different networks that we can tap into, and explaining early that this process is starting and to remind them and perhaps introduce them to the community plan. I agree with what Councillor Hughes said. This is a great way of starting to engage with council, and for a lot of people, it introduces them to the broad brush, the strategic level of council work. So I look forward to it, and I'm pleasantly surprised with the fact that we are moving into this engagement, and I think it can only be a successful process. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hennessy. Any other discussion? No, in that case, Councillor Redmond, do you want to close the debate? Discussion? No worries. All right, I'll put that now. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's unanimously carried. Move now to item 8, which is information reports. So we can discuss these separately, or we can move them on block. How would the chamber like to proceed? Mayor Redmond?
And I'll move the items on block. Thank you.
Discussion about, okay. Thank you. Can I please have a seconder for that to be moved on block? Councillor Hennessy, would you like to say anything, Councillor Hennessy? Any discussion? Councillor Davies?
Yeah, and just being clear on the process here, this is moving the 3 reports. It's not just moving that we go into an on block. Like this is, if you want to discuss the reports, you're discussing them now, or once this is moved, it'll be all over. I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Yes, Councillor Davies, that is
Yeah.
correct. Yep.
So just to speak to hold on, 9.1, the digital marketing strategy. So,
Yep, 8.1, yep.
8.1, yep, 8.1. I enjoyed the report. I think there are a few things. It was good to hear in I think page 66 about the part that social media is not a one-way method of interaction. This isn't just putting out signs and advertising and stuff. This is, it mentions 399 private messages responded to from the page in the last 6 months. And that wouldn't include comment responses and that kind of thing to just on post. That's just messages that were sent. And so just sort of, I think that's an important part of the role as well, is recognizing that this is a customer service desk. A lot of people, and that's part of why we were really wanting to have a role like this, is because people were coming up to our customer service desk, being ignored and getting angrier and angrier at the council because they felt like council was personally snubbing them, when actually it was just that we didn't really have a unified strategy on dealing with messages and that sort of thing. So, so yeah, just sort of pointing that one out. And to thank Tori, our new digital marketing officer, who's come along to her first meeting to watch. So yeah, just commenting on that one.
Thank you, Councillor Davies. Any other discussion on any of those 3 reports? We'll go to Deputy Mayor Shanks first.
Yeah, thank you, and g'day, Tori. It's nice to meet you. Yeah, it's a difficult space, the digital space, and especially with the way Facebook works and the way different users use it. I'm still learning with my own very smaller social media presence. But yeah, it is interesting to watch how other councils do it, and I've been doing that for a couple of years now, and there are definitely areas of improvement, and each time that we've brought in a digital marketing officer, they bring in their own flavour. So I look forward to understanding yours, Tori, moving forward. I'll move on to the Fringe event quickly, because I know we're on block here. I had a question through you, Chair, noting that next year will mark the 10-year anniversary of the Fringe. Just
correct.
just wondering what, if anything, we might be looking at doing differently, if you can let the cat out of the bag early, or
Chi, would you like to answer that?
Sure. Obviously, Linda is our fringe extraordinaire. She's not here this evening, and she is conscious that it's the 10-year anniversary, and she's coming up with a few different options for council to consider. There'll be a report coming back later in the year. I think normally July we get one for fringe for the coming year, so it'll have a few options for council to consider, including Walker Place and potentially other locations if that's what the council are interested in.
I believe David Barrett did flag that would likely be July. That will come back. Yeah. Anything further you'd like to add there, Deputy Mayor? No. Thank you. Any other discussion on any of the items? Mayor Redmond, you've moved that on block, but is it? We can come back to you. Evans. Yeah, technically haven't does. Yes, you're welcome to speak to.
Thank you. I'd like to pick up on the customer service report, which I really enjoyed reading. Thank you, Chair, for this very thorough report. And I really like the general, I mean, I'm on page 88 and I'm looking at general feedback and suggestions for improvement, because I think when you get evaluation and you get feedback, there's always an opportunity to improve, and I really like what's been written here in regard to the property and facilities team commencing different projects to improve the delivery of their services, and I think that's really useful. It's always when you have 74.03% of people that are either satisfied or very satisfied, you always look to see how you can improve. You've got 9.13% reported that they were very unsatisfied. It's very difficult sometimes to understand how and why they're very unsatisfied. So I look forward to seeing how those numbers can be improved. I think they're good numbers. I think you should be very proud of the service that is provided. I think it has improved over time, and I think many people appreciate the friendly service that they get, both in the administration centre, but all the customer service desks. I think they're very good. Every time I walk past, there's always a pleasant conversation happening, and they also manage people who might be agitated or frustrated really well. And I actually observe that quite well, and I think the customer service team do a very good job. I take the point about the private messaging. There's always a challenge around some of the language that might be used in those private messages, and I think the admin staff that are managing those social media sites do exceptional work, because I think that they can be triggering sometimes. So you do have to manage how you look after your mental health, and how you don't, you minimize the chance of getting triggered by repeated, people who might say not the right thing every now and again. So yeah, I really enjoyed reading these reports, and yeah, I very much enjoyed them. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mayor. Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to thank the staff of the three reports. They're really good reports. Yeah, the customer service. Actually, I think the results are actually excellent, because you probably a large percentage of people who contact customer service are very grumpy to start with, because they're unhappy about something. So to turn so many people around I think is actually a huge achievement. And yeah, I've been in the building and heard it from a distance as well. And yeah, sometimes it's not a council matter at all. It's actually often it may not be a council matter, and they are referring people to other agencies or other businesses or others in the town or government departments. The Fringe report, I found that really interesting. It's such a huge event and the amount of staff time involved. I think the cost wasn't too bad, really. I was quite surprised. A lot of the shows nearly broke even. And it does activate the town and does bring a lot of people. The events I went to, a lot of the people weren't Gawler people. I spoke to Jim Vallelonga, and he's noticed in his business that a lot of people that are coming to Gawler aren't Gawler people, and we are attracting a lot of people to Gawler, and I think that is that whole tourism point, and a lot of the work the staff are doing, and what we're doing in our main street with banners and everything else is sort of a point of difference and bring people from outside of our community to our businesses, which I think is really, really important. And it's hard to judge other than the anecdotal sort of comments from business owners, but I've noticed it, and other business owners I've spoken to have certainly noticed that it is people from outside of Gawler. It's not Gawler people. Which is great to see that bigger draw card. And yeah, the digital space, I've actually noticed improvement in that too. So yeah, thank you very much for the work you do, because I reckon it'd be pretty difficult, as everyone else has said too. But yeah, I have actually noticed improvement there, which is great. So thanks very much.
Thank you, councillors. Deputy Mayor, you want to ask a question?
Sorry, Chair, I should have asked this before. Just around, through you, Chair, the responses received was around 210, but I noticed
So this is for
this is a community survey, the customer survey. So I'm on page 86 of 91. Just a little bit of clarity on what touch points are available. I'm sorry if I've missed this in the report. I reread it last night, but it might have been a bit late. But 4,907 people engaged with council, calls answered, CRMs received, face-to-face transactions. At what point do they have the option to then fill out the survey out of those three options? That's the first question.
Chair.
Through the chair, the survey is available hard copy at all customer service points. And for anyone who interacts with us with an email address, we will go through and email the survey out to people. So mainly through CRMs. If they provide an email address, we'll email out the link to the survey. It's also available on our website. It does depend, I think for around every 15 we send out, we might get one response. 15 to 20 normally garners one response, so we send out a lot more than we get. But periodically we will promote it through Facebook, through the social media posts. We'll pop it on staff email signatures. We won't keep it there all the time, because if it's there all the time, people don't see it, just becomes another sort of item that gets missed. Or email it out to community groups, because they often interact with council as well. So on a day-to-day basis, it's through people that provide email addresses and at our service points, and then periodic promotion throughout the year.
Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. So just on that, which I'm not having a crack here at all, because I'm one of the ones that skips the survey whenever I'm running through. I'm always in a rush. So I guess what techniques are we trying to do to? You've listed everything there, but are we happy with this number, or are we always striving to get more? And then what are we going to try to change in the formula? Because I can imagine it's a balancing act to not pester, which, to be fair, some of the surveys I skip, they pester me, to be fair. But what are we doing in that space, I guess?
Through the chair, that's a good question, that balancing of not pestering versus getting it out there enough. I noticed the marketing team, they've been doing excellent work, so we can work on some strategies with them. Probably it would be targeted promotion of the survey as opposed to just getting it out there all the time. A lot of people who submit CRMs often, well, not often, but are regular CRM submitters. So they are most often getting the survey, and of course you answer it once, you don't answer it every time. So that balance of trying to reach people who perhaps haven't answered it before, or how do we get it out to people who haven't provided their email address. We did try calling some customers and doing over the phones. However, we noticed that it sort of skewed the results perhaps more positively than they would have been in a paper or survey, because they were talking to a staff member, or we could have just had fantastic responses, but we noticed that those responses were skewing a little more to the positive than perhaps the rest. So we discontinued that because we weren't sure of the bias or the if having a staff member asking the questions was skewing the results a little. So we only did that for a few.
Thank you, Chair. Any further questions there, Deputy Mayor? No, thank you. Councillor Sample.
Thanks, Chair. It's probably a couple of questions I've heard people talking about with the main, the event was fantastic, but COVID was still with us, and so many people came and left because it was too crowded. And I'm just wondering whether what happens from here. Is there going to be a get together, a workshop, a council workshop or whatever to discuss with the relevant people as regards to maybe having it in another venue or whatever, because that venue has definitely outgrown itself. Unless you're Tarzan, you can get in the bushes. And the thing is with it that it's probably a venue for somewhere like Apex Park, which is just across the road, would save an enormous amount of money with all this, I was going to say crappy, not allowed to say that, but when it costs to shut streets and things like that. But the other part about it too is that I totally have objected to it all the way along, is to having a drink stall in there and a food stall. All the businesses around there, and here we are, working against the businesses, because there's nothing in these reports to say what the Rotary Club of Gawler, after the great work they do in catering, and what the hotel made out of the drinks and things like that. It's all part of the fringe. I haven't seen anything in here, but I don't believe it's necessary there when you're in the middle of the business centre.
Councillor, I'll just ask, is that you're still asking a question about what the plan is for the venue?
If there's any plans, I think.
So that's
Deputy Mayor.
the venue. So that's for the launch event, which happens for the Gawler Fringe. Is that correct? Yep, that's the launch event you're talking about.
Yeah. The Fringe.
Would anyone like to talk about that in reference
Walker Place
and the numbers in the venue in Walker Place?
So in regards to planning for next year's Fringe, the plan is there will be a report to July CCS where we'd look at a few different options, and we can definitely open it up for discussion with council members then, if they'd like to talk through a few different venue options. We can put some in the report.
Yeah. Is that does that answer your question, Councillor Samuel? Yep, no worries. All right, thank you. Would you like to speak any further on it? No, no worries. All right, thank you. Any other discussion on any of those reports? No, in that case, move that one. It was yes, Mayor, you moved those on block. Is there anything further you'd like to say? No. In that case, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Against? That is carried. 9 items listed for discussion. There are none. So we'll move to item 10, which is questions without notice. Are there any questions without notice? Councillor Davies.
So I've got a question around, I know you can apply to put up banners on the main street. Can you apply to put things on the bins and get the coronation treatment as our main street did last week?
Who would like to?
Through the chair, yes, you can. There is no cost for us. The cost is borne from the community groups who want to put the signs up. So we have a banner schedule, and obviously we only have a certain amount of bins. We generally allow 20 signs to go up there. But yeah, you can.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other questions without notice? No worries. All right. Thank you. Any motion, onto item 11, any motions without notice? No. There being, there being none, I'll close the meeting at 8:35, a very early one compared to some of the ones we've had recently. And the next meeting is on Tuesday, the 11th of July, 2023, and we'll see you all there. We'll see you before that, but see